Welcome to part 6 of Road to 9th Edition, Astra Militarum. This section will be covering the Wargear list, so the range weapons, special weapons, heavy weapons, melee weapons, and vehicle upgrades for the Astra Militarum, as well as Heirlooms of Conquest. We'll start with the ranged weapons first. So essentially, ranged weapons is as it previously was. So this is specifically the upgrades for things like sergeants, officers, characters in general. So for ranged weapons, I'm bringing back the las gun and shotgun, just so that way a sergeant can replace their las pistol for a las gun if they wanted to. I'm also introducing the hotshot las pistol and hotshot las gun as upgrades, just to make it a little bit more diverse and a bit more interesting. So essentially from the list, we'll go for options that are free and then work our way up, increasing in points. So for a character, so again, sergeant, officer, etc., can take a las pistol, a las gun, or a shotgun for free. They can then upgrade to a bolt pistol or a bolt gun, a hotshot las pistol or hotshot las gun for 2 points. So a bolt gun and a hotshot las gun I do feel are fairly similar. So the bolt gun gives you the extra range and extra rapid fire range as well as strength 4, while the las gun has less range and has AP -2. So I do believe that they're fairly equal together. Then there's the plasma pistol, of course, for 5 points. So there's not too much you can really do about the plasma pistol. It seems like it's potentially overvalued on the hands of a BS3 Plus model, 4 Plus model, but in the hands of a BS3 Plus model, it's better. So potentially you could make a separate points cost for it, but then that might also undervalue actual special weapons. So just leaving that at 5 points, not going to touch it, that's fine. Then in the case for las pistols, shotguns, and las guns, those cannot be taken by Grenadier Sergeants, Militarum Tempestus Tempesta Primes, Tempestors, Lord Commissars, and Commissars, simply for the fact that they come base with better weapons. A bolt gun and bolt pistol, they can be taken for free for a Grenadier Sergeant, Militarum Tempestus, Tempesta Prime, Tempestors, Lord Commissars, and Commissars. So they can swap their standard weapons for either a bolt gun or a bolt pistol, or a hotshot las gun or a hotshot las pistol. So, say for example, Grenadier Sergeant has a hotshot las pistol, can swap that for a bolt pistol for free, just because the profiles are fairly similar. Same for a Commissar, they can swap their bolter for a hotshot las gun for free. That just seems to make sense. Special weapons. So we're looking at introducing a couple of new special weapons, changing some of the profiles, and also just trying to adjust their points cost to make them a little bit more even across the board. So some of these profiles might have 2 figures. So the first figure will represent BS4 Plus, so it'll be cheaper, and then BS3 Plus will obviously be more expensive because it's more efficient in the hands of that model. So I plan on introducing the bolt gun as a special weapon. So think of that maybe like an SMG, so like a squad automatic weapon. So that would be 2 points that you can upgrade your las gun to a bolt gun. A hotshot las gun for similar reasons, so 2 points. A sniper rifle, so we're renaming that to the long las. That's still going to be 2 points. And we're changing the AP characteristic to AP -2. So essentially it'd be 36-inch, heavy 1, 36-inch range, strength 4, AP -2, potentially causes mortal wounds on a roll of a 6, and ignores lookout sir. So hopefully with that small addition of AP -2, we can make it a little bit more interesting and a little bit more viable. Then the flamer, we're going to reduce that to 4 points. So it's all right. It's definitely better than frag grenades on the grenade launcher. So it's still the same D6, but your strength 4 and you auto hit. So I'll make that slightly cheaper. The grenade launcher, we're going to reduce to 3 points. and we're going to change the crack grenade damage profile to 2. So instead of having to then roll and potentially getting a 1, you at least get a reliable damage result of 2. So 3 points, you either have that single shot at strength 6, AP -1, now damage 2, or you have that single shot profile, that single D6 profile for the frag grenade at S3. So it's really, you're basically just paying to get the extra grenade shot at long range, essentially. So it's not amazing, but 3 points is definitely better than 5. Bringing in the heavy stubber, all the other human-centric factions have it. So Cultists can get it. Space Marines can now get it. Adeptus Mechanicus have their own. Genestealer cults have them as special weapons. So we're bringing the heavy stubber in as a special weapon for Guardsmen. So that's going to be 5 points. And just like the other factions, we're going to increase its type characteristic to heavy 4. Just to put it in line with the Space Marine one. So Space Marines will still be better because they get the AP -1, and the AdMech one will still be better because it gets Assault rather than heavy 4. So the Guard get the worst of the bunch, but they also just at least get it and can spam it. Then there's the Hot Shot Volley Gun. That's 5 points, not changing. Only available to Scions still. Melter Gun is 5 points to 10 points, hasn't changed. Plasma Gun, 5 points to 10 points, hasn't changed. In saying in the previous one, so just like the ranged weapons, if taken by Grenadiers or Militarum Tempestus Scions, bolt guns and long lasers are free to swap their weapons out, because essentially you're getting either something of similar value or less value. So you're getting rid of, say, for example, the potential for first rank fire, second rank fire on your hot shot las gun, and the opportunity for several stratagems that you can use with that hot shot las gun for a sniper rifle. So you get a heavy 1 weapon instead of a rapid fire 1 weapon. So that's free. Next is heavy weapons. So just like the special weapons, I'm going to now split them to BS4+ and BS3+. So that means any vehicles that are BS4+ will actually get a points reduction for taking additional weapons. So say Lehman Russ Sponson would be 20 points for Sponson heavy bolters rather than 30 points. So you get basically a 10-point decrease there. While a tank commander would still be the same 30 points because they're BS3+. Okay, so for the heavy weapon list, the mortar will remain as 10 points, so that's not going to change regardless of ballistic skill. That's only available for heavy weapon teams. The autocannon, so that will be 10 to 15 points, depending if you're BS4 or BS3+, so that gives you a small reduction on things like Sentinels and Chimeras as well, because I've made the autocannon now a turret option. Heavy bolters is now 10 to 15 points. A heavy flamer is a flat 10. So yes, a heavy flamer can now be taken as a heavy weapon team, much like they previously could for Death Corps of Krieg. So unfortunate news is we will remove the single carried heavy flamer from veteran squads and command squads, but any squad that can take a heavy weapon team can take that as a heavy flamer. So that it's a bit of a side grade, but it also makes it much more common. So essentially any squad can now have it. We've added in the mole launcher to the heavy weapon list. So combat engineers. So previously Death Corps of Krieg combat engineers, but we're just making them a generic unit now. So we're removing the Krieg keyword and just adding the regiment keyword. So the mole launcher is 15 points. We're going to change it fairly drastically. So we're going to make the strength characteristic 6, the AP characteristic to -2, and the damage to -2. So essentially we're making its stat line about the same as the Eradicator, like Nova Cannon, just to make it a bit more interesting. This thing's supposed to be firing underground torpedoes that blow up, so it makes it a little bit more scary. The multi-laser is going to be 5 to 10 points, and we're increasing it to heavy 4. So essentially you, instead of saying the heavy stubber, heavy 4 at strength 4, you give it to one guy. Now you do 2 guys with heavy 4. That's why it's 5 points. And then 10 points is for BS3+, of course. So heavy 4, we're just trying to basically try and make it a bit a bit more useful in 9th edition. We're adding the multiple rocket pod here. So multiple rocket pod can still only be taken by Valkyries and Sentinels. So we're adding it to the Sentinel weapon list, essentially. So previously, back in about 5th edition, Forge World released a unit called the Support Sentinel that could take the multiple rocket pods. So that's essentially what we're bringing back. So it was pretty fun, and it'd just be nice to have that option again. We're bringing back the Twin Heavy Stubber that was around up until about 8th edition. So that was a Death Corps of Krieg heavy weapon team. So that's going to be 10 to 15 points and heavy 8. So essentially it's just 2 heavy stubbers strapped together, double the points. Costs a little bit more if it is in the hands of BS3+. The las cannon, so 15 to 20 points. One thing I would like to see, so this would actually apply to all las cannons in the game, not just the Imperial Guard's Astra Militarums, is to change the las cannon damage characteristic to at least a minimum of 3 damage. So you would still roll d6, but if you roll a 1, 2, or 3, you would just get 3 damage. The missile launcher, similar thing again. I want to see a blanket increase to a minimum of 2 damage. So basically, even if you roll a 1, you will still do as much damage with a crack missile as you would a autocannon. It just doesn't make sense for those kind of heavy weapons you're paying premiums for that have single shots to do less damage than the weapons that have multiple shots. It just seems a bit silly. So that's why we're adding these kind of minimum characteristics. So before someone goes out there and says, oh, hey, you're making your las cannons too close to the Adeptus Mechanicus's, you have to bear in mind that theirs have a minimum of 4 damage, and it's more reliable to get the higher damage results, as well as their las cannons also being assault weapons. So they still have 3 advantages over a standard las cannon. We're adding plasma cannons to the heavy weapons list. So if you want to take a plasma cannon as a heavy weapon team, you now can. You have the risk of killing the whole model if you do overheat, but you have that option. It'd just be interesting. Multi-melters, similar premise, so you can now take them as heavy weapons as well, just to be a bit more interesting. Also gives the potential of, if we're adding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 new weapons to the heavy weapon list, it gives Games Workshop the potential to make a second heavy weapon team kit that they could sell to us. So that for them, that's a sales opportunity. For us, it gives us a bit more creativity with our list creation and a little bit more variance with how our heavy weapon teams are going to look like. Then we move to our melee weapons. So the chainsword, absolutely free to anyone who takes it. The Sentinel chainsword, 2 points. So that price point still remains the same. But we're going to also add the ability to, each time the bearer fights, it can make 1 additional attack with this weapon. It's a chainsword. It should have the chainsword ability. It just makes sense. Then the power weapon, 5 points. Hasn't changed. Hunting lance, 5 points. So only a cavalry officer can grab that. Then the power fist, 10 points. So it hasn't changed. And then we're going to re-add the eviscerator, 10 points. So basically, it's going to be a ×2 strength weapon, AP -4, damage 3. So, of course, for the Eviscerator, that's going to be available to the Ministorum Priest only. Then we move to the Heirlooms of Conquest. So the Emperor's Benediction, we're going to increase the range characteristic to 18 inch and the strength to 5. So that basically makes it a half-range heavy bolter. The Tactical Auto I have never had to pronounce this out loud. Quarterly of Tiberius, the Militarum Tempestus relic that gives you the extra order. We're just going to flat out remove the ability to fail on a 1. It's just not worth a relic slot to potentially have a 16% chance of failing that additional order every turn, when you can just spend 1 CP or just use a Warlord trait to get one. Hammer of Sundrance, we're bringing it back. So I'm going to increase the damage actually to damage 4, simply because we're increasing the battle cannon damage to 3. So that just gives it something over the battle cannon. I guess we can increase the AP if we wanted to instead, but that just means that you're just kind of intruding on something like, say, the Vanquisher. So we're going to make that just a flat damage 4, make it a little bit more interesting. We're going to add one of the previous items from the old 3.5 Codex, so the Honorifica Imperialis. So that's going to be a regiment version of the tactical auto-reliquy of Tiberius at Mortem Tempestus get, except just purely for regiments, so you get one extra order for that. Then we're going to reintroduce the Medallion Crimson, so that is going to force enemies that roll any kind of damage dice, so a d3, d6, the result will always be a 1. So basically, how the law used to work on this particular medal is that these guardsmen who've received it have had the most horrific injuries and not lost their faith in the Emperor or their will to fight. So basically they can take as much damage as possible. So to represent that, say for example someone shoots a crack missile into and rolls a 6, they'll only take a 1. So they just ate that to the face and still lived on. We can say it was the Emperor that kept them alive, and the Emperor, my faith is my shield and stuff like that. So that's our justification for it. We're going to bring back the Shield of Mortwald. So that was the Emperor's Blade unique relic, and we're just going to remove the foul condition. So it's we're looking at a T3 model most of the time that has it. So if any damage gets through and they have this invo save, if it fails, it's worthless. There's no point. So we're just going to make it just stay as what it is and not change over the course of the game to make it a bit more reliable. We've got the Agrippina class orbital tracker coming in, so we're just going to change the keyword to artillery and Hydra unit just to improve them. The litany of holy, is it Snod? I've never had to pronounce that out loud either. Basically, we're just going to change the Emperor's Conclave keyword to Astra Militarum infantry, just to give them that buff there as well. The Claw of the Desert Tigers, Talon's unique relic, nothing's going to change there. Corvus Keeler, nothing's going to change there. The Mamorph Tuskblade, nothing's going to change there. Order of the Iron Star of Mordian, so obviously the Mordian one, not going to change. Petrov's Mark 45, the Van Halen one, we're just going to change the AP of that to -2, make it a little bit more interesting. The Relic of Lost Cadia, so obviously the Cadian one. What we're going to do is we're actually going to remove the Chaos ability. So I don't really like abilities that obviously delete a specific faction. So what we're going to do instead is make it a bit more powerful in general, but weaker against that specific faction. So you can reroll rolls of 1 for that model. That includes hit rolls, wound rolls, and rolls made to determine the number of shots fired by a weapon. So basically you can hide it behind, like 3 Lehman Russ tanks shooting their battle cannons. And you can reroll shots, wounds, and their shot dice to determine the number of attacks for rolls of 1. It's pretty significant when you add all those together. And that also means that you don't then have to also use, say, like the Cadian tank order for the rerolls. You could use that for something else instead, like the +1 to hit that we changed to for Gunner's Kill on Sight previously. So yeah, it does stack up very nicely. So the Skull Mask of Acheron, so Armageddon's, just going to change the aura distance of that to 9 inches just to make it a little bit more viable, because obviously just that kind of aura range and the actual durability of the characters that carry it is a little bit questionable. So you're not going to really try and get them into combat. This means you can at least have the effect ahead of your line. So if someone charges your first actual line of infantry, then you might actually be in the aura range of that. The armor of Graf Toshenko, the Vestroyan one, no change there. The Blade of Conquest was going to change the damage characteristic to 2. The Dagger of Tuscan, we're just changing that to 3 regiment infantry units. The Death Mask of Olanus, no change there. Laurels of Command, we're going to change the success condition to 3+. So basically we're seeing all the new litanies and everything like that coming with a 3+. So we're just going to change that to a 3+, make it a little bit more reliable. The Blessed Bolt Pistol from the Itonian Gorgones, we're going to change that to Psyker or Chaos unit. So just to give it a bit more variance. Distraction Charges, that's Capic Eagles, no change. Emperor's Fury, which is the Etonian Dragons, no change. Fire of Judgment for the Fiatoid Eagles, no change. Refractor field generator for Lamdam Lions, no change. The Hound's Teeth for the Physian Jackals, no change. Then we move on to the vehicle equipment. So this is where there's been a few changes and a few additions here as well. So the Dozer Blade, still going to be 5 points, but whenever you take it, it then gives that vehicle the breachable keyword. So you can then move, say, for example, a Lehman Russ through a building, a Chimera through a building, just to make it a bit more viable. We're going to re-add fire barrels as a defensive weapon. So it's got a range of 3 inch. So basically, think of it this way. You can't use it on Overwatch unless the enemy is right next to you. But if you do survive the first turn of combat, you can then hit them with an extra heavy flamer attack. So it's only a once per battle thing, costs 5 points. Basically, think of it as like for one turn only, your double heavy flamer Chimera could be a triple heavy flamer Chimera to try and get them out, like off you from close combat. Hunt Killer Missile, that's just 5 points, nothing's changing there. Track Guards, 5 points, that's fine. Auger Array, we're actually changing fairly drastically, so we're going to double the points to 15, or to 10, sorry, maybe even 15. So basically, it just allows you to re-roll hit rolls of 1 in the shooting phase with a vehicle with an Auger Array. So you can get an Auger Array on basically any Imperial Guard vehicle, and then order it, say if it was a tank, or just have an armoured officer of some kind, so you can get rerolls of 1 and +1 to hit, just to make it a bit more actually shooting, more viable for shooting. Improved comms, we're re-adding that for 5 points. So basically, it's just a Voxcaster for vehicles. So basically, a vehicle takes that. If the armoured officer takes that same upgrade, the order range for an armoured officer is infinite. Enclosed crew compartment, 5 points. That's only available for the vehicles that have the Armageddon Forge World kit, and that just increases their toughness by 1 for 5 points. The reason I have this is because we're actually just going to remove the data sheet for Armageddon Pattern Basilisks and Armageddon Pattern Medusas. This is the exact same thing. So you could just use those same models to represent it. No changes or anything else. It just makes it easier for things like keywords, definitions, just everything like that, just to save on space. So it does the exact same thing. You just pay those 5 points and then you can use that model. We're bringing in another upgrade called Medicaid vehicle. Costs 10 points. And basically you give that to a transport vehicle and it gets a Medipack. So basically you can give it to, say, like a Chimera, a Turox Prime, and then that can have a 6 plus Feel No Pain aura at 6 inch, and then can start rezzing back guardsmen around it as well. So I'll make those vehicles a little bit more interesting, maybe a bit more of a higher value target, but definitely a lot more interesting. Mobile command vehicle we were talking about earlier, that's now just a 5-point upgrade to any transport vehicle. So again, Chimera, Turox Prime, you can then just chuck any officer in it, and then they can just use their voice command from the vehicle and count as being within range of a Voxcaster. In terms of just actual generic Wargear, what they'll be doing, so the Medipack, we're gonna keep the current rezzing of 1 model, so no rolling required for that. That just brings back 1 dude. In addition to its current abilities, it should also provide a 6 plus Feel No Pain within a 6 inch to any unit of infantry or cavalry. And then we have that stratagem that allows it to also get an additional D3 on plus the normal 1 guy back. The platoon standard, that's just going to be changed to a normal +1 leadership within 6 inch of the unit holding a platoon standard. So the platoon standard is going to be for the platoon command squad, because we're bringing that back with the platoon commander. The regiment standard will be for the company command squad. That will provide a +1 leadership, and you roll a d6 every time a model flees within range of it, and on a 4+, a model doesn't flee. So you can see a commonality of these being a fairly common thing throughout this codex. So basically it just gives you a diverse range of just trying to keep guardsmen back on the field, because guardsmen fleeing should be a common thing, and we should have multiple ways of trying to mitigate that, depending on how you build your list. So you have options. The Voxcaster, so again, basically it's still the same rule how it works currently, except the order range is infinite. So if a friendly regiment officer is within 3 inch of a unit with a Voxcaster, issues an order to a target unit that is also equipped with a Voxcaster, the order range is infinite. So that basically covers everything for Wargear and upgrades. let me know what you think about any of those. If I should maybe have a look at some, change some points. Again, the link will be in the description below if you want to have a look at the article yourself. Currently, we've just hit page 21 out of 50, so almost halfway done. Thanks very much for tuning in, listening to my rambling here. And next, we'll start actually covering the unit data sheets themselves.